Hey Rebels, welcome to the second installment of reFind projects. This week we're going to update our wardrobes by making skirts from t-shirts. This is one that I made from a turtleneck actually, that I love the stripes, but thinking about actually wearing a turtleneck was unrealistic. So it sat in my closet forever until one day I realized I would love to have a little mini skirt that I could wear leggings and tights under, and realized that the shirt fit perfect around my hips and waist. So I just cut it off and attached some elastic. So that's basically what you're going to need today. If you need to make some slight modifications to the t-shirt that you choose in order to make it fit the way that you'd like it to, no big deal. That'll be really easy. But ideally it would be a shirt that when you kind of wiggle it on, it's already super snug and cute as a mini. And so that all you would need is some elastic for the waistband, scissors to cut the top off from your shirt, pins to attach the two together, and a sewing machine that's capable of the zigzag stitch. So today I'm going to be using actually this really cute H&M sweater because it is stretchy, and my friend Tessa sent it to me from Ireland when she moved there. So I think that this is actually going to be a really cute piece when I'm done with it. I also have 2-inch elastic, so it's pretty snug and should fit really well at the top, and also gives a nice finished waistband because it's wide like this. So go ahead and collect your supplies and meet you back here. So now that we have our stuff, first hold your t-shirt up, the piece that you're going to use, and see kind of where you want it to be for you. I want to try and use as much of this length as possible so I can wear it kind of high-waisted. So I'm just going to kind of fold it down where I want it to go and see that that works, and it does. And then I'm just going to kind of notice that the side seams that already exist are going to be perfect. I'm not going to have to change those at all, but I do have the sleeves to contend with here. So basically, I'm not going to have to do much except cut across right under the collar, and then I'll just kind of draw a rough line that meets the two, then merging up from the already existing side seam to make a new one for myself at the waist. Okay, so I turned my shirt inside out now so that I can work on the inside because that's where the seam's going to go. And I am going to kind of make a snip right here, parallel with where I want the top to go under the collar. And just cut straight across. Feel underneath so that you have your hand under both pieces, just to make sure that the underneath part is smooth and straight too, and it's not all wrinkly. Okay, the only reason I'm not cutting totally off is because I am a pack rat of scraps, and I think that these sleeves are really cute, and I might like to use them as sleeves again for something else, so I don't want to totally butcher them. So I'm just going to follow the very edge of that seam out because I know that I'm not going to use it. It's outside of what I need. So even though basically what we're doing is destroying clothes in order to make them better, I do think that it's important that you do it in an orderly fashion so that you have less of a mess to try and fix then when you're fixing it up. Okay, so basically now I can see exactly what needs to come off from the edge where my waist starts. I'll move this a little bit closer. Where my waist starts and where the side seam is, it's this little armpit flap that was there. So I'm just going to kind of make a rough line at kind of a curve, pretty gradual curve, but I mean that's right where your hips are going to be, so it's going to be curved anyway, so that it just kind of runs off into the seam that already exists. So the thing that's important here is keeping both layers completely outright even and flat. So once you've done that on both sides, then pin this and take it to the machine. Okay, so now that you're all pinned together, you're gonna take it to the machine, and you can either use a straight stitch or you can use a zigzag stitch if it's going to be really pulling, because it's going to be really snug. And the way, since you're making a new seam that runs into an existing seam, then the best way to do that is to kind of sew gradually towards the existing seam, and then to kind of just run into it and then off the edge and hand tie your knot rather than back stitch, because the back stitch is going to show that that's the end mark, and so when you turn it right side out, you're going to have a little poke out on the sides. So by just kind of running off the edge, it's going to make a really smooth transition, and then just make sure your thread tail is long enough that you can tie it by hand a couple of times and then cut your threads. So basically we'll just get started. Okay, so as I sew this, generally what I do when I start a stitch is I get the stitch started first by hand, by just doing a couple of hand cranks. That way the thread doesn't get caught up in there. You're using a stretchy material, so the initial momentum of getting started doesn't bunch anything up. And then I just kind of hold on to it, especially with a stretchy fabric. I don't push or pull, but I hang on to it so that it doesn't kind of stretch out of place. And you just get started slow. I do take my pins out just before I get to them, because I have found that I have broken many needles and bent many pins, and it can also cause the fabric to pucker then when you're done, to have something up in it like that. So just kind of take it easy and go slow. And now as you come up on the very edge, this is what I was talking about, just kind of gradually sew into and then over the seam that already exists. Bring your needle up and then pull your tail long before you clip it, so that then you can tie your knot by hand. Nothing complicated, and just a basic knot. Do that a couple of times. Okay, so now that you've done that, before you cut away any fabric, I do recommend turning it right sides out and just kind of checking, making sure that your seams are as you want them. Sometimes curves kind of need a little bit of encouragement, and it's really nice to be able to iron those. So once you do cut them, you can iron them open, but in the meantime, this is just kind of making sure that you're right before you can't fix it anymore, which is taking me a long time to not just be like, oh, it's done, that's great, and not check to make sure I didn't sew the sleeve to itself. You know, I do that a lot. So here it is, new shape, and looks pretty good. So now the next step is going to be your elastic. The elastic should feel snug but not killer, because the skirt itself is pretty fitted anyway, so it's not going to be like it's just falling off from you. So take your elastic and just hold it to, get this out of the way, just hold it to where you want it to sit on your body. Do it loosely first, and then once you find the placement for it, then just pull it a little bit snugger so that you can feel it squeeze, but that it's not cutting off circulation. Okay, so when I have the piece that I want, and I've cut it leaving, you know, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch on each end more to overlap, then I will take it to the machine. And generally I just overlap it just so it's flat on top of itself, and then in the space I do a zigzag just over and over and over again, back and forth. You can also, if you really want to, sew it right sides together, so that when it opens up it's a finished little part there and you can't see any stitching. So how you do that is up to you. Just make sure that you give yourself plenty of stitches to hold it together there well. Okay, so you have your finished skirt and your elastic. The way that you apply them together, this is a good old tip from my mom here, so you guys are really lucking out on those. You find your equal parts side to side, so smush it flat and mark your half marks on your elastic with a pin. Same on the other side. Then pull them the other way so that those pins are together in the middle, and mark your other sides so that you have your piece in exact fourths. Okay, then you're going to do the same thing with your skirt. These two sides are going to be obvious because your seams are there. You're welcome to mark them if you want to. So then once you have those, then pull it open the other way and mark those. What happens here is the elastic a lot of times is smaller than your fabric because you want the elastic to be stretchy. So you're going to have to kind of sew and then pull so that they meet each other in length, and then when you're done the elastic squeezes back in. And there you have it. So now that you have those marked, you can pull it back out so that it's right. And then you're also going to flip it inside out and put it around your skirt with the top facing down so that you have your right sides together where you want to sew it. Now replace your pins so that you can match up the center back pins and put them in together then. So now repin your pieces together at the north, south, east, and west points. Okay, so I have everything pinned together now, and you'll see there are some places where my inside fabric is kind of baggy because there's more of it in length between the two. So this is where you're going to find a start point for your stitch and get your needle in there a few times with a stitch, using a zigzag stitch because this will be kind of stretching. Get your needle in there, and then with the needle in, then pull so that you have equal pieces, so that you're stretching both the fabric and the elastic so that they're squared up with each other, and then just kind of keeping light pull so it stays, feed it through the machine to your next pin point. Same thing, make sure your needle's down and then pull that next section so that they're taut with each other and not baggy. Okay, you're all set. Your seams are sewn and your edges are finished, and I truly hope that you love yours as much as I love mine. So thanks, Mom, for all the tips that you've given me that I got to pass on to everyone else today, and thanks to my friend Tessa who gifted me this great sweater in the first place. And just remember that when people ask where you get your things, tell them it's a reFind Rebel original.